The first reports were dismissed because no instrument in known space was supposed to witness a sky die all at once. At Charon Array, operators thought a filter bank had failed. Then backup scopes agreed. Then observatories across stations and moons sent the same impossible message. The galaxy had not dimmed. It had been extinguished, not gradually, not region by region. One moment the heavens were full of depth. The next there was a blackness so complete it felt as if the universe had pressed itself against the glass. Every star in the Milky Way was gone, except one. Sol still burned. Panic arrived unevenly. On some worlds it became riots around shrine towers and market plazas. On others it became silence, the kind that emptied streets while people stared upward at a sky that no longer made sense. Then the Hesh Concord declared human space quarantined within the hour, not to protect Earth, to contain it, because Sol was not merely visible, it was normal, golden, steady, a single warm lamp in a galaxy of erased fire. Around Luna, civilian traffic was driven below defense lanes. In the basalt command chamber beneath Tycho crater, Admiral Elian Varela read the emergency summary once, then issued only 3 orders. Hold the lanes. Do not fire unless fired upon. Keep the archives sealed. That last command confused even his own staff. The first alien task group reached the solar boundary, expecting mines, weapons, and some terrified human claim of sovereignty. Instead, they found rescue beacons, thousands of them. Human transmitters had been scattered beyond Pluto, all repeating the same packet in trade code, medical code, and distress syntax. If you have survivors in cold space transit, vector here. We have heat. The Hesh commander, Speaker General Tovan Reel, treated it as a trap until his scans returned hospital ships, fuel tenders, and agricultural barges being stripped into temporary shelters. Earth was preparing for refugees. Then the dead and dying began to arrive. Pilgrim arcs between systems, prison transports, sleeper barges, merchant hulls that had been weeks from orbit when their suns vanished and their route maps became useless. Sol lit them from millions of kilometers away like a fire seen through a storm. Human controllers stopped answering political channels and opened triage bands instead. Dock assignments replaced diplomacy. Cargo manifests became casualty counts. On Europa, and children slept beside strangers whose home stars no longer existed. On Mars, riots started when citizens learned their water ration had been cut to support incoming ships. That was when the sealed archives ceased to be a curiosity and became an accusation. The Concorde demanded access. Monastic orders called Sol an abomination. A Celt prosecutor named it evidence of human sabotage. Varela refused them all. The truth emerged because a maintenance technician in Quito recognized an old encryption hymn embedded in the archive logs and leaked one file before anyone could stop her. It was not a weapon design, not a stellar shield, not proof of sabotage. It was the record of a buried human research program called the Vigil of Ash. Decades earlier, the human astrophysicists had found a cosmological failure mode no one else had noticed. Under rare but catastrophic conditions, stars could not be sustained by fusion alone. They required observation-linked coherence from conscious civilizations spread across living space, not belief, not prayer, attention. The galaxy had not suffered an attack, it had suffered depopulation first. Across ages of war, sterilization campaigns, machine purges, and elegant legal exterminations, too much life had been erased. Civilization had hollowed out the very field that helped keep the stellar lattice stable. Humanity had hidden the discovery because the implication was unbearable. Everyone had been living inside a system that needed witnesses, and now only one star still had enough of them nearby. 12 hours after the leak, Soul began to flicker, not violently. Worse than that, a slight shudder crossed observatory feeds. Solar output dipped. Shadows over the Pacific sharpened strangely at noon. Panic finally reached Earth. No fleet could fight this. No weapon could matter. So humanity called for the one thing no empire had ever treated as strategically sacred: minds. Every transmitter in the system opened, not with slogans, with instructions. Wake the sleepers. Bring children to the sky domes. Patch civilian lenses into the net. Route monastery mirrors, museum telescopes, weather arrays, mining scopes, retinal trackers, old cameras, every eye, every sensor, every act of attention, across refugee decks and cracked station windows. Beings who had arrived as enemies, rivals, prisoners, and strangers were handed coordinates and told where to look. For 6 minutes, the solar system became one vast act of witness. People watched from hospital cots, through frost on ruined shuttle glass, in prayer halls, in detention pens, on command bridges where doctrine had lost all meaning, and Soul steadied. Its light deepened. Gold returned to the oceans. Emergency lamps clicked off one city at a time. Nobody cheered. The relief was too terrible for cheering. Later, courts would argue over blame and discover that ordinary law was too small for what had happened. Governments that had measured success in territory and silence were forced to face a simpler arithmetic. The dead had not only left graves, they had left structural damage in reality itself. Quarantine doctrine ended. Refuge corridors did not. The old prestige of conquest curdled almost overnight. Census became sacred work. Preservation fleets began escorting siege ships and school ships with the seriousness once reserved for war vessels. And the image that endured was not of Earth triumphant. It was smaller than that. A child from a frozen pilgrim barge, wrapped in a foil emergency blanket, standing beneath the glass of a temporary shelter outside Mombasa, pointing up at the restored sun with cracked blue fingertips, as if holding it there by attention alone.